Wealthy people track their net worth. Meanwhile, I once checked the IRS website so many times that they basically told me to leave them alone.
Be gone from me!
So let's talk about the crazy things we do when we're broke. Now look, we've all had those broke moments, the kind that make you shake your head and wonder, what was I even thinking later on? You've had them, I've had them, and let's be real, most other people have had them as well. In today's video, I'm taking you back to 5 of my most ridiculous broke moments, real life examples of the stuff I got myself into before I finally pulled my head out of my, well, you know where, and got my finances together. Hey everyone, I'm Rose Colburn, and I'm here to help you take control of your personal finances so you can create a life you truly love. I keep financial freedom real, attainable, and BS free because no one should feel like wealth is out of reach. If you're tired of financial advice that sounds good but doesn't actually work in real life, you're in the right place. So yeah, I really did make the IRS website tell me to go away. But in my defense, it was nearly $10,000 and I was desperate to get my hands on that money so I could go spend it. Oops. I mean, what I meant to say was I really needed that money to clean up my act and get out of debt and put myself back on the straight and narrow financially. Yeah, that's it. That's exactly what I meant. I really did need that money for all the right reasons, but instead of actually making a plan, I was just refreshing that website like my life depended on it. And that's the thing. When you're broke, you don't always think clearly. You're reacting instead of planning. Wealthy people track their finances and make strategic decisions, while broke me was out there harassing the IRS, hoping my financial situation would change the second the refund hit my bank. But hope isn't a strategy, and checking your balance every 5 minutes doesn't actually help you build wealth. And I know right now, those tax refunds are starting to roll in. And if you're stalking the IRS website like I once did, waiting for yours to show up, remove your hands from the keyboard, back slowly away from the computer, and now sit down and actually plan what to do with that money so it helps you reach your financial goals, not just fueling your next shopping spree or haphazardly throwing it at a bunch of bills, hoping that it all works out. Create an actual strategy that's going to work to improve your finances. Of course, obsessively checking your bank account is just one way broke people handle money. Another classic, thinking you've outsmarted the system, only to get played yourself. And that brings me to the time that the bank charged me $1,100 in overdraft fees.
Oh God, that was horrible.
Ouch, right? So let me tell you about this time that I thought I was outsmarting the bank, but instead I got hit with a whole bunch of fees. Here's what happened. Wealthy people automate their savings and their investments so their money grows without effort. Me? I had my own automated savings system. It just happened to be a terrible one. So I had this brilliant idea. Instead of keeping money in my checking account, I would just put everything into my savings. That way, when I would log into my checking account, there was nothing there. The logic was, I thought if I had no money in my checking account, I just wouldn't spend it, right? And if I really needed to spend money, well, no big deal. My checking account would just automatically pull from my savings. Genius, right? But then I had another great idea, to not bother reviewing my checking or savings to actually track what was being withdrawn. I can't see it, so it's not being spent, right? Well, guess what? Wrong, 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 wrong on all the ideas. What I didn't realize was that every time my savings transferred money to my checking account to cover a payment, my bank charged me an overdraft fee, even though I had the money in the bank account. And since I wasn't checking my accounts, I had no idea that this was happening. And by the time I figured out, that huge savings account that I had been so carefully building, gone. Called the bank thinking, surely they'll fix this. I mean, it was just a little mistake. I wasn't really overdrafting. It was all my money. The money was there. It was just sitting in my savings, not my checking. And yes, they did refund me a whole $50. Oh, and to add insult to injury, they told me to keep better track of my bank accounts next time. I didn't have the heart to tell them that I was doing it on purpose. And that's the thing. When you're broke, sometimes you think you're gaming the system, but really the system is gaming you. Wealthy people automate their savings the right way by setting up transfers to a separate savings or investment account, not by tricking themselves into keeping a low balance and hoping they don't spend the money. So if you've ever tried to pull a creative money move and had it completely backfire on you like I had, please let me know in the comments. I know I can't be the only one who's done something like that. Of course, trying to outsmart the bank is one thing, but you know what's even riskier? Desperately trying to make the rent at the last minute, which brings me to the time that I had to fake an exclusive business deal just to pay my rent. You see, wealthy people, they look for smart ways to make more money, investing in assets, creating passive income, or building businesses that don't require constant hustle. Me? I was pulling business ideas and new services to offer my clients just right out of thin air, just hoping to survive. At the time, my rent was $650, so it's a while ago, and I was $500 short. I had no idea how I was going to cover it, and I had zero backup plan. So I did what any responsible business owner would do. I started randomly calling all my clients under the excuse of a courtesy check-in. You know, just wanted to see how things were going with you. Translation, do you have money? Do you want to give it to me? Do you know anyone else who wants to give me some? Please? And of course, I had to make it sound good, so I pitched him on a brand new special offer that I was running that month only.
I'm going to make him an offer he can't refuse.
Except, up until that moment, there was no prior offer. There was no real thought or really anything businessy put into creating that special offer. I literally just made it up on the spot in a desperate attempt to bring in $500 before the rent was due. Somehow it worked. I got the $500 I needed, and funny enough, this special offer actually became one of my best-selling services later on. So in the end, it kind of worked out. But let me be clear, I do not recommend making up a service out of desperation just to cover your rent or any other of your bills. See, this is where there's a difference between wealthy people and someone living paycheck to paycheck. Wealthy people plan ahead and create income streams that they can actually rely on. Broke me? I was scrambling at the last minute, making deals out of thin air and hoping I could cover my bills. Please, please, please. And sure, it worked that time. But I also know that living paycheck to paycheck as a business owner and a single mom is terrifying. So have you ever had to do something like that? Even if you're not a business owner, maybe you went out to shovel driveways in the winter under the excuse of being a good neighbor and hoping that some of them might toss you enough money to put gas into your vehicle to get to work for the week. I'm sure there's other things people have done trying to scrape up enough money when they desperately needed it. Of course, desperate attempts at raising money aren't the only bad money moves that I've made. No, we won't stop there. Sometimes the real disaster happens when you ignore basic necessities, like, say, keeping an eye on your propane tank in the middle of the winter. Which brings me to broke moment number 4, the time I decided that I wanted to pay even more money to heat my house, because that's a great idea. You see, when I was always broke, living paycheck to paycheck, my biggest strategies were 2 things: hope and ignoring the situation. And of course, those 2 strategies just go really well together. Ignore the problem and hope things will turn out okay.
Oh, I hope.
It really doesn't work out as good as you might think. And I ended up making it way more expensive to heat my home one month. Wealthy people, they pay themselves first, meaning they prioritize the things that keep their life running smoothly before spending anything else. Me, I treated checking the propane tank like an optional suggestion. And let me tell you, it was a very expensive mistake. It was winter, and instead of keeping an eye on my propane levels and planning ahead like a responsible adult, I just assumed it was fine. Because I mean, how low could it really be? Spoiler alert, it was low. Very, very low. I knew it should be running out soon, but I thought if I didn't check it, I could reduce the stress of trying to figure out where to come up with the money. And of course, one afternoon, the house started getting colder and colder. And when I went to turn up the heat, nothing happened. So now, in the dead of winter, in Wisconsin, mind you, I had no propane, which meant I had to call the propane company for an emergency refill. And that's when they hit me with 2 extra fees. Fee number 1, a special out of propane fee, because apparently letting it run out completely means they had to do a pressure test to make sure there's no leak or other reason for the tank being empty. I tried explaining to them that it was me. I was the reason for it being empty. That doesn't really matter to them. They don't care. Still have to do the test. Fee number 2, a next day delivery fee, because I needed heat ASAP. I laughed. They didn't.
Pay up, girl.
And in the end, I paid way more money for way less propane, because after all the fees, I could only afford a partial refill. So instead of being warm and comfortable for the next couple of months, I got to enjoy the luxury experience of rationing my heat and wrapping myself and the kids up in blankets like burritos. And this is the thing. Wealthy people, they think ahead and pay for the things they need before they become an emergency. Broke me? I was ignoring basic necessities until it became a crisis that cost me even more money. And trust me, not planning ahead will always cost you more in the long run. What about you? Have you ever completely ignored anything, ended up paying way more in the end because of it? Maybe, I don't know, not changing your oil and ruining your engine. Not that I would have ever done anything like that, no. Well, I guess you probably know the truth of that story. Anyway, ignoring my heating situation wasn't the only time that I winged it instead of planning ahead. Because honestly, for a long time, my entire financial plan was basically just hoping and ignoring and sometimes putting the two together. And that brings me to broke moment number 5, when my long-term financial plan was pure vibes. You haven't even heard the best part of it yet. So far, we've covered stalking the IRS, like that was going to speed up my refund, generously donating $1,100 to my bank in unnecessary fees, magically creating new business services out of thin air just to make ends meet, paying extra to heat my house because apparently I'm generous even when I'm broke. But now, let's talk about my biggest, most ridiculous financial mistake that broke me made of all times. It was the broke me mindset of the ages. For a long time, my entire financial plan was, I hope I land some new clients soon. Yep, that was it. That was a plan. No budget, no savings, no actual financial strategy. Just vibes, baby. Yeah, that'll do the trick for sure. Now look, I'm all for the law of attraction and manifestation, but you need to put a little thought and effort into it. And trust me, the law of attraction worked perfectly in my situation because I manifested and attracted exactly what I was putting into all of this. Nothing. Back when I was running my business, I had no real financial safety net for my business or my personal life. I would make money, would spend it, and then I would wait for more to come in. And when things got tight, I would just cross my fingers and hope that a client would just randomly decided they needed my services again, like today. No cash reserves, no backup plan, no serious marketing strategy, even though I was running a marketing agency at that time. Just me sitting there like, Surely, someone's going to email me today about a project, right? Right? And sometimes it worked, but most of the time it was just as stressful as hell. Because when your entire plan relies on luck, you never actually feel secure.
In my experience, there's no such thing as luck.
And this is the thing, wealthy people don't rely on vibes. They create systems that bring in steady, predictable income. They have a plan. Broke me, I was just hoping things would work out instead of actually making things work. Am I the only one who's ever had a plan that was just based solely on wishful thinking? I'm pretty sure I'm not. So yeah, I've made some pretty ridiculous money mistakes. But the best part is that I learned from them. I went from broke me to financially free me. Try to say that 3 times fast. I went from being broke to being financially free by actually getting serious about my money, making a plan and sticking to it. And if any of these not so smart money moves resonated a little too closely for you, then check out this video for some actual smart money moves so you can start turning things around without all the expensive mistakes that I made along the way. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next one.